Another way to create surfaces from curves is to use an extrude. Now, an extrude uses two types of curves to create its surface. The first is an outline, and that's a shape. And then that shape is run along a second curve called a path. Now, in this file here, I have a very simple path here, and that's this little arc. And then I have my shape, which is just a NURBS circle. Now, in order to create an extrusion, we have to select the path last. So I'm going to go ahead and select my shape first, and then shift select my path, and that should highlight in green, which tells me it's selected last. Now, all we have to do is under Surfaces, go ahead and do Extrude. Now, let's take a look at some of the options here. The first is, what style do we want? Typically, you'll want tube. Do you want your result position at the profile, which is here, or at the path? And then where do you want your pivot point as well as your direction? And just like with other tools, you can output to either NURBS, polygons, or Bezier. Now I'm going to go ahead and just use the defaults, and then we can go back and change them later in the attribute editor. So I'm going to go ahead and select Extrude, and there we go. Now this extrude doesn't quite line up here. Now one of the things is, you notice we're getting the surface is flipped. So if we want, we can do lighting two-sided, and that should show it a little bit better. But also notice how this extrude doesn't quite match the path. So we can go into the attribute editor, and the most important one is fixed path. If we click on fixed path, it should sink in. Now we also have a number of other things. We can scale this, we can rotate it, and we can also change how this is pivoted. So we can pivot it to the component pivot. And again, that will change rotation and scale a little bit, as well as the center of the bounding box. Now notice how this changes it just a little bit. And then we can also change the extrude type from tube to distance to flat. Now notice how flat doesn't arc the profile as it goes through. It keeps that profile flat. So we're going to go ahead and make sure this is set to tube. Now again, just like with any other Maya tool, these curves are live. So if we were to, say, scale this or manipulate the originating curves in any way, it'll go ahead and manipulate the result. So extrude is a really great way to create linear objects such as tubes, ropes, and so on.